Hey guys, welcome back to Pepper Geek. I'm Crystalline, and today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite garden pest, aphids. Aphids are one of the most common and annoying pests to find on your pepper plants. These soft-bodied insects attach themselves right to your pepper plant and suck the sap directly from the leaves. In today's video, we're going to discuss how to identify aphids, how to find aphids on your pepper plants, as well as how to get rid of them. Before we get into it, be sure to check us out on Instagram at Pepper Geek. There we post all sorts of photos of our peppers, our harvests, our plants, and it's a great way to keep up with what's going on behind the scenes. Aphids reproduce incredibly fast. By feeding on your pepper plants, they can introduce viruses, distort leaves, stunt pepper plant growth, and even reduce yields. First, we want to talk about finding and identifying aphids. There are thousands of different species of aphids, and they come in all different sizes and colors, from light green to brown, even black or red. This can make them pretty tricky to identify. If you're ever having trouble identifying a garden pest, you can always bring it to your local nursery in a baggie, dead of course, and maybe they can help you identify it. The bodies of aphids are pear-shaped, and most species have cornicles projecting from the hind end of their body. Mature aphids have antennae, and some of them even have wings. Keep in mind that aphids are pretty small, so you might not notice all of these details with the naked eye. You won't see aphids jumping or hopping around, and you'll typically see them congregating in groups. However, we have seen plenty of aphids hanging out solo on our peppers. Finding aphids really comes down to knowing where to look for them. We seem to find aphids more on young foliage, especially tiny leaves that are just starting to develop. However, sometimes we do find them on older leaves, flowers, and sometimes even the pepper stems themselves. Since aphids are so small and they blend in so well with the foliage, one good tip is to hold the pepper plant up to the light and look for shadows. You may also see black or brown spots at the feeding points. And keep an eye out for curled leaves or damaged flower buds. Aphids also excrete a sticky substance called honeydew. This sugary liquid attracts ants and can lead to sooty mold. It's a vicious gardening cycle, so if you see a lot of ants congregating around your pepper plant, it might be an indication that there's something more going on. Now let's talk about what you can do if you find aphids on your pepper plants. One great way to prevent a bad aphid infestation is to be vigilant about checking for aphids early in the season. You'll want to check every day, maybe even a couple times a day, when the temperatures are just starting to warm up. If you stay on top of it and check your plants obsessively like we do, you'll likely only find a few aphids feasting at one time. The easiest way to get rid of a few single aphids is just to squash them. Throw on some gloves if you want, and gently squish the aphids between your fingers, being careful not to damage any of your leaves. For this method to really work, you want to stay on top of it because missing just one day can lead to a huge explosion in the aphid population. If your aphid problem has already escalated beyond the squishing method, another simple, effective, and natural way to control aphids in your garden is just your run-of-the-mill garden hose, just using water. A good blast of water is very effective at knocking aphids off of your pepper plants.
Now, if it's still early in the season and your plants are relatively small, like this one here, and you find some aphids, more than just a few, a good alternative to using a garden hose is to just bring them indoors underneath your kitchen sink and rinse them thoroughly. Try to get all of the foliage, top of the leaves, bottom of the leaves, and just try to lose as little soil as possible. We use this method every year when we find clusters of aphids. Rinsing them off with water is incredibly effective. They have a really hard time holding on to the foliage. They'll drop right off. I like to use cool water and the spray function if you have the little shower setting on your kitchen nozzle. Just top and bottom. Try to get as much of the foliage as possible. And with this method, you can really just get rid of 99% of the aphids, if not all of them. On a lot of the plants that we do this to, we never see the aphids return. And just go a little longer than you think is necessary just to be thorough.
You can use your thumb over the hose to create a higher pressure spray, or you can get a fancy hose attachment. If you're growing your peppers in containers, you may want to move them to a different location before spraying them with the garden hose. That way, the aphids will have a more difficult time finding their way back to your plants. You can also help control aphids in your garden by using beneficial insects such as ladybugs or lacewings. Ladybugs eat aphids, so we're always happy when we see them hanging out in our garden. Now, you can purchase beneficial insects online or at your local nursery, but they can be pretty difficult to find in the middle of the season when pests are running rampant. If you are able to purchase ladybugs, be sure to release them in the evening and release them at the base of the stem so they crawl upward. Also, spray your pepper plants lightly with a mist of water. Another idea is to use a loose netting around your pepper plants to contain the ladybugs so they don't fly off immediately. Whether you're purchasing ladybugs from the store or you're attracting native ladybugs to your garden, you'll want to make sure your garden is a place that they want to stay. Providing them with a water source or even a ladybug house is a good way to make them feel at home. You can also incorporate several plants into your garden that attract ladybugs, such as yarrow, marigold, and dill. If you've had success with any other plants attracting ladybugs, be sure to let us know in the comments. Next, let's talk about neem oil. Neem oil is a well-loved natural pesticide that's derived from the neem tree. Neem oil works great against aphids, whiteflies, mites, and it even works as a great natural fungicide. The thing that you need to know is that not all neem oil is created equally, and it's not an instant fix. We use 100% cold-pressed organic neem oil that contains azadirachtin. In order for neem oil to be effective, you have to use it every few days to make sure that you're successfully interfering with the aphid's life cycle. We have found that the best way to use neem oil is by creating a mixture of non-toxic soap and water. We have been using Dr. Bronner's peppermint castile soap, and we'll leave a basic recipe in the description for you below. It's usually 1 to 2 tablespoons of neem oil per gallon and a little bit less of soap. When using soap, be sure to avoid any that have added dyes or fragrances. You can use a spray bottle to apply the mixture to your pepper plants, or you can use a bucket with a sponge and just make sure you saturate the leaves really well. In the past, we have recommended using diatomaceous earth for aphid prevention. However, we now recommend you try some other methods first, as diatomaceous earth can be harmful for beneficial insects as well. So that's it. These are the methods that we use for aphid prevention in our garden. However, we have seen some very creative ideas from the community. Maybe you spray your pepper plants with garlic on the 3rd full moon of the year. We would love to hear the effective ways that you prevent pests in your garden, so be sure to comment below and let us know what works for you. That's all for today. We'll see you next time. Mature aphids have antennae, and some of them even have wings. Probably from drinking all the Red Bull.